Hey, San Antonio, it's Deborah, your local realtor. So today we have a very special guest. He's one of my closest friends. I usually help him or have him come on with me whenever I have clients. He's really good with information. Mr. Brian Gutierrez with Neo Home Loans. So Brian, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, tell everyone what you're about and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Deborah, first of all, for having me. Hello to everybody who's taken the time to watch this. I'm looking to just provide whatever value I can. At the end of the day, this is about just educating as much as we can. And so thanks for having me along on this journey. My name's Brian Gutierrez. I'm with Neo Home Loans. I'm the branch manager here in San Antonio. We are a tiny but mighty group that is building every single day. I've been a part of the organization since September. One of the big things that we actually bring to the table is a little different is most clients actually go through the mortgage process the same exact way, right? They fill out an online application link, they provide documents to a client or to a lender. The lender pre-approves them. They usually provide, good or maybe not so good customer service along the way. And then after that, the client's done. So here at Neo, what attracted me to be a part of this organization was it takes a step further to actually be more of a mortgage advisor rather than a mortgage loan officer or a mortgage originator. So instead of putting people into thousands and hundreds of $1,000s of debt, it's more about helping them actually see a financial plan and how the mortgage product itself can actually be a way to create wealth for retirement, wealth for generational wealth, wealth for whatever it may be. Just there's an untapped opportunity that you have as a homeowner. Here at Neo, me being on the call, I'm just really excited to kind of bring the wisdom and wherever direction you want to take this. But feel free to learn more about me at mortgagewealthpro.com. You can go to mortgagewealthpro.com and you can find out more about me and my amazing company. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. I know I wanted to kind of talk about renting versus buying. I know a lot of people, they've probably been renting for a long time and just really think like maybe like that's like their thing. They're not going to be able to get into a home. I just want to open the conversation on your thoughts on, the process of moving from being rental and then turning into a homeowner.
Sure. There's always this kind of, I guess you could say, hurdle that a consumer has to get through. And I'll tell you, I am one of those consumers, or I guess I should say I was one of those consumers. Looking at a rent payment that is usually at about or maybe less than what a mortgage would be, trying to justify that from a monthly perspective, right? What I will say is that we've seen the most historical turn of events that have happened in the last 36 months, right? Of just in the real estate industry and the mortgage industry. So for me, I kind of have to look at the data and explain that to customers. So for me, it's really understanding the difference in what are the benefits of owning a home versus renting. So I guess where I was going with all this, Deborah, you asked that question. There is a huge benefit to owning versus renting. And I think it's really up to you and I and all the professionals that live and work and play in this industry to really educate the consumer as to what are those benefits.
Right.
Just sharing a quick stat for you. A lot of people are sitting on the fence because of the current interest rate market.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I get it. I mean, if you just go to Google right now and you Google mortgage interest rates, and I encourage anybody watching this, just do that. Go to Google, type in mortgage rates, and you will see when you hit enter, Google will throw out just kind of what the data pulls from Google and search engines. And you'll see interest rates are ranging from the mid to high sevens to even the 8% range. That's hard to look at, especially in the last 36 months when you've seen 2% interest rates before, right?
Right.
There is an actual cost of waiting. So if you are a person who's renting right now and you're telling yourself, man, these interest rates are too high, I'm going to wait until they go down. I want to just share some numbers, if you'll allow me, just to kind of what that actually did. So let's rewind. Let's go to January of 2021. January of 2021 through November of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So just 4 months ago. If you were looking to purchase a pre-owned home and you waited to still purchase, you've lost out on $85,000, meaning whatever house you're looking at on average is $85,000 more than what it was back in January of 2021. Interest rates were great. Unfortunately, the market was very competitive. You could speak to that. I mean, you had houses flying off the shelves,
Absolutely.
realtors. Yeah, realtors were saying, man, I didn't even really have to work for it. I mean, it was great. Now there's more inventory, but there's less demand, right? So what we have found is that $85,000, if you're looking for a pre-owned home, I mean, that's real money. That's additional money that's going into your principal and interest payment. That's additional money that's going into your overall, cost of the debt for, the foreseeable future. If you wanted to buy a new home, the cost of waiting is 65 grand. So from that same timeline, it was 65,000. Some may ask and say, well, how come the pre-owned is, it rose more than the new build? Well, the new build always starts at a premium price, right? All those pretty incentives that they get don't come just because the builder loves you. It's because they bake it into the price. So that's why that number is a little different. So at this point, Deborah, I mean, I would just tell you that jumping into this, there's a huge benefit and a gain, right, of
Mhm.
owning a home. So I'd like to just kind of take us down that journey. And I know I've answered your question a very long-winded way, but just kind of unpacking what the numbers actually look like, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
do what data do you have from maybe rent or what rent looks like today for a
Yeah. So
consumer?
I think the two different like real estate, as far as like what's categorized as is apartments, and then we got single residential homes, right? So
Perfect.
the
Yeah.
average rent for an apartment in San Antonio would be 1250. Now that can kind of
Okay.
range on lower or higher depending on if you're doing studio or if you're going all the way up to like a 3 bedroom, right? But the average would be 1250. And then we also have residential rentals, which is our like single family homes. So that one's going to be ranging at, I have it here somewhere. Sorry, guys. Hold on. So that one's going to be ranging at 1786, around 800. Of course, like with the
1800.
yeah. So with the single family, you got your own space, you got your own backyard. So of course that one's going to be a little bit higher because of that, and it's owner to renter, right?
Hmm.
Using a real estate professional to advocate with that. But yeah, so 1250 for rent, and then you're looking at 1786, 1800 for a single family home.
Sure. So that apartment going from studio to 3 bedroom, right? I mean, there's some
Mhm.
big apartments out there. And then you get into the house, that's when you're looking at houses that are usually 2 bedroom up to 4, sometimes 5 bedroom, all that stuff. Um, do you by any chance have the average sales price on the realtor data of what San Antonio is?
Yeah, so the average sales is going to be at 359 for right now. So that's, an average of just home prices in general for buying real estate in San Antonio.
So think about that, right? I mean, you're looking at average home prices at 1800. I'm curious to see like where exactly those homes are that are making up the pool of that 1800, because when you look at your average purchase price in San Antonio, I mean, being in between 340 to 360,000, that monthly payment looks completely different, right? We know that payment's
Right.
going to be higher than the rent. At the end of the day, where the benefit comes from is rent will increase,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
even though we have a little bit of a different market here where, interest rates, like I just talked about on Google, set, mid sevens to 8% range, when we start seeing those interest rates drop, which I'll talk a little bit about some market conditions here in a second, but when
Mhm.
we see those interest rates drop, then of course we're going to see the payment drop for owning a home. So the
Mhm.
question is, as rental income continues to increase, what level or what comfortable level does a consumer have to say, hey, look, I know that I could get a house for 1800 bucks, but I really want to own something, right? I really want to create
Mhm.
equity. I want to create generational wealth. I want to have a nest egg there for debt consolidation if the market turns again, whatever it may be. If they go that direction, you almost have to say, I am going to pay a little more now, right? I'm
Right.
going to pay a little more now, but and again, this is where Neo comes in and where the difference is, in lending. As a mortgage advisor, it's your and I job to help the client after closing. Now,
Mhm.
I would say that's our job, right? Now, I'll tell you that most professionals in our industry, they don't feel that way. Once you close, it's like, hey, we're done. I'm gonna go buy a new Mercedes with this paycheck. I'm excited, right? So, where for us, it's like, I feel like we've had the same kind of conversations around, but it gets so much harder after you close. The consumer's left going, okay, well, now what? How do I make my payment? What is all this mail that's showing up that's junk mail because I was publicly recorded with the county and now everyone's skip tracing and sending me everything under the sun? What's legit? What's not? What's a scam? Um, what do I do with homestead exemptions? What do I do with disability exemptions? So this is where you and I, right, as a team and kind of what I feel that, we've been able to put together here is really dive in at a deeper level and help the consumer. So where I'm going with all this is staying in touch with them after closing, even though that payment is a little higher now and your rent was lower. Our goal is to refinance that house later and bring that payment down on the purchase and then bring it down again. And as rent continues to appreciate, because rent will continue to go up, average rent 2, 3 years ago was 1,400, 1,500 bucks. Now it's 1,800 bucks, right?
Right.
So the numbers are only going to change. So eventually rent will be here and your mortgage will be here. But over every single year, you're going to see an average appreciation percentage, at least what we've seen in San Antonio, minus, the anomaly that we saw in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 a little bit. We're seeing an average rental increase percentage of 6%,
Yeah.
5 to 6%, right? I would even say 4 on the low side in some areas, but let's just say 5%. That appreciation percentage of your house over time, it's going to change your financial outlook exponentially. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. And then
That's okay.
would you say like a good thing to say is like as far as interest rates as we do change, date the rate and then marry the real estate. That's something that
Yeah.
you kind of say as far as like fluctuation and how real estate operates.
For the right customer, absolutely. I mean, I would say that like if you can qualify for a house now, yes, date the rate, right? But not
Mhm.
only that, is that there may be so many other benefits that you have in this market. One, we just talked about it. We have more inventory, but we have very little demand.
Right.
We unfortunately did have some reporting that came out in the last 2 weeks that caused interest rates to kind of rally the market a little bit and work their way up. Um, Not a bad thing. This is just kind of what we see, right? We have a lot of things on the cusp that we're experiencing, like inflation numbers coming down slightly, then jumping back up a little bit, then coming job employment numbers, consumer spending and pricing. So there's so many different indicators that are happening that the Fed is looking at.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, though, the Fed has to have these meetings and then they hold on to the information and then they release their notes a few weeks later. And when we read those notes, that's where the market goes, the sky is falling, or hey, it's a little easier. And then, you'll see rates kind of fluctuate. So to your point, if we were to actually purchase the property, yes, you may have a little bit of a higher rate, or because we have less demand and we have more supply, would you agree that there's sellers out there that are willing to give money for closing cost credits?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that would be a good tactic when buying real estate. Like what are your options available to you? What strategies can we do to help you, the buyer, benefit from
Exactly.
purchasing in real estate? Absolutely.
Because what we end up doing there is that if we have that situation again, I'm going to say it one more time for a third time. We have, low demand and high supply. You have
Mhm.
sellers that maybe started the process of buying a brand new home and started building middle of last year, and now their house is ready and now they're paying 2 mortgage payments.
Yeah.
So how does that financially impact the seller? Well, they don't want to pay 2 mortgage payments. So it's like, let me have Deborah come and buy my house, or Deborah's client, and then I'll give them X amount of dollars. And then we can strategically use that money to help you get a lower interest rate permanently or
Mhm.
get a lower interest rate temporarily. Now, there's a lot of talk out there, and I'm sure everyone watching this has heard of permanent buy downs or temporary buy downs. They've been the talk of the craze. If you're looking into a home, you've heard about it, you've read about it. If you want more information, get on the phone with Deborah or I, and we can talk to you about it. But those temporary buy downs is really a strong selling point, in my opinion, because you take the seller's money to do that product. It gives you a 1 to 2 to even a 3% reduction on the interest rate for a 12-month span, depending on what buy down you do. And if
Right.
you refinance before you actually get to the end of that buy down term, you actually get a refund of the unused premium.
Mhm.
So it's pretty awesome where, let's say the buy down costs 5 grand, you refinance in 12 months and you only spent $2,000 of that buy down, they're going to give you 3 grand. Now, Deborah, what do you think you can use that 3 grand for?
I mean, a number of things. It could be, depending on like what your situation is, could be something for the house or yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
vary on the situation.
Granite countertops, paying off a credit card, right? The check
Yeah.
is literally going to show up in your mailbox, or use that money to help offset the mental right, sort of strain of refinancing, because refinancing does cost money. There's
Yeah.
several credits that come with refinancing, and that's where, a mortgage advisor is going to sit down with you in your specific situation and tell you, hey, look, yes, it's going to cost X, but here's all the rebates you're going to get in the mailbox. And when you get those, you have to kind of see these as washing each other out, right?
Right.
Or, hey, that money you do get in the mailbox, let's be strategic and pay off these 2 or these 3 credit cards. So not only the refinance, Deborah, saved you $100 a month, but
Mhm.
because we were able to do the refinance and skip a payment for a month, whatever it may be, now it puts you in a position where, hey, you have an extra $5,000. Use that $5,000 to pay off these 2 credit cards. So now your $100 a month savings just grew to $300 or $400 a month savings.
Mm.
That type
That's-
of different way of thinking for a consumer is what you get to kind of, not you, but like, I guess you could say the consumer gets to go through in having professionals that are really looking out for their best interests for long term, right?
Right.
How
Yeah.
great would it be to close or I'm sorry, to close on your new home and then have a financial group, for example, Brian and Deborah, that are with you every single year to just check in. How's the house going? Deborah's picking up the phone and saying, hey, just wanted to see how things are going. How's the house? How's it performing? I need new granite countertops, or hey, we just had a kid, whatever it is, so that way we get to stay in front of them and help them make those moves, those financial moves that are best
Yeah.
for them, and they're not going into a blind. On the mortgage side, refinancing, hey, we need to do some debt consolidation. We need to pull money out of our house so we can buy the next house, or we can buy a second home because we want to have a lake house. There's so
Mhm.
many different options, and that home ownership tool is what allows you to play in that sandbox. If you're just renting, it's always going to be some type of unsecured debt that you have to go get if you're in a bad, tough time. If you own a home, and let's say your house is worth 500,000 and you only owe 200,000, well, you have $300,000 of equity that if you need some of that money, you can pull it out and you can use it. You just have to qualify, right? There's
Yeah.
multiple different products to get that money out, but that's kind of, I mean, the rent versus buy scenario. Everyone's heard, well, the payment this, the payment that, like all that stuff. That, yes. What we're talking about is the true benefit of actually owning a home and how it can help you generationally and financially for years to come.
And I like how you're talking about that because like even these apartments, we have like investors that purchase these apartments and then we have the rent and then that's also going to them and that's benefiting themselves and their families in that financial and resident or real estate wealth, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think like us talking about renting versus buying, like taking yourself out of a position where you're renting every single year and getting yourself into a position where you can purchase a home where it's going to be a blessing and not a cursing to you and your family
Right.
and able to have that for generations down the line, and really having
Yeah.
that for your family, for yourself, and you're actually putting your money towards something that's going to be yours and not going to someone else that's going to be benefiting from all the benefits of it.
What's the saying, Deborah, that like, hey, look, you may not have a mortgage now, but you're still paying somebody else's mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. You and I both have rental property, so we get that, right?
Yeah.
And it's as we kind of go through. Oh, and also to plug that, you and I both talk to our tenants about owning as well. So I love that too. We're not just the landlord collecting money with a green cap, counting our dollars, right? No, this is, we're
Yeah.
we're here to educate. So we do it with our own tenants as well.
Absolutely.
I was gonna just mention that, like, as we're kind of going through this conversation, one thing that kind of popped in my head was, you know, we've had this conversation around why I should own, right? It's like
Mhm.
sometimes it turns into, well, how can I own?
Yeah.
And so I feel like we've hit the topic of, hey, this is why you should own. But now
Mhm.
the question of how, right? And I think one of the biggest, I guess you could say, myths that are out there with home ownership that is still very, very, I guess you could say, like, very big. It's still the word escapes me on what I want to use there, but um, prevalent, I guess, is the best word I was looking for.
Okay.
That is still in our industry is you have to save 20% down to buy a house. And I can tell you, just speaking from the company that I work for, I have programs with as little as 1% down.
Mhm.
I have programs with as little as 1% down, and they give you a closing cost credit to help you with the other down payment through a grant, or they help you with closing costs to help it. I mean, so there's so many different options.
Mhm.
So what I feel is, again, going back to the payment, right? if let's say the average housing rent, like you said, was 1,800, and let's say that the best a person can do buying a $360,000 house was, let's say $2,700 a month. Okay.
Okay.
So that's a $900 a month increase, right?
Right.
To a monthly obligation. Now, in this market where you have that, again, for a fourth time, right? We have the low demand and the high supply. When the seller comes to you and says, hey, please buy my house, I want to give you X amount of dollars. And let's just throw a fictitious number out there. Let's say that that number is $15,000, right? You're going to buy this house, you're going to get $15,000 in a seller contribution. You put all that together. Well, at the end of the day, you know, you're getting money from a seller to help you pay for the costs that you had already, if you're buying a house, budgeted for. So you know that there's two things you have to pay for when you buy a house. You have to pay the down payment, you have to pay the closing costs, right?
Right.
So if the seller's going to pay for all the closing costs, and let's say, again, just a fictitious number, let's say the number of closing costs is 10 grand. Seller gives you, $15,000. It's like, okay, well, we're going to use all that money best way we can, buying down the interest rate. We'll inflate the closing costs a little bit, with the buy down, whatever it is. But my point in that is that if you're not having to bring that 10 or 15 grand to the table, what can you use it on? And that's where, again, you and I having that conversation with the client or the consumer to say, hey, what if this is a real life scenario I've been through within the last week? You're afraid of paying an extra $900 a month in mortgage, but with this money that you no longer have to spend, if you use it strategically by paying down these items of debt,
Mm-hmm.
I've actually shown you how you can free up by paying off the car and the two credit cards, one personal loan. You could actually free up $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So now, instead of being scared that, oh, well, I pay 1,800, but now I have to pay 2,700, I've just strategically shown you, or the team, right? You and I have strategically shown that consumer that you can still buy the house and still have $100 surplus at the end of the month because you're going to eliminate all your debt. And then
Right.
showing them the fiscal responsibility that they have to do yearly to make sure that they're not putting themselves in a bad situation with, buying something on a credit card. I mean, I feel like you and I become kind of people's life coaches, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we have, we've had clients come on and, we try to help them as far as like, what are your expenses? What are your debts? How can we put you in a position where you can afford a house? It's not going to become a burden and something that you're going to have to sell and move off from. But yeah, I think we have come to a position where we help our clients that we brought on and really coach them through this process because it is very kind of an emotional thing. It's, one of the biggest purchases you're ever going to make in your life. So I think really having a strong team like Brian and myself and really help you through it is really the best way to go about it. We really show, when we have clients come on, we show them here are all the expenses that are when you do purchase a home, how can we defer it, or what ways can we make this work. So I think just having a team like that is really beneficial.
it's being able to talk at such, I guess you could say like a granular education level, and it allows the consumer to really feel confident in what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
My biggest pitch to any consumer I talk to, I tell them straight up, my job is to peel back the numbers in a way that you understand completely what you're getting into, right? Buying a house is adulting at a whole new level. It
Mhm.
truly is, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you go through so many different things, and I love that you brought up the word emotion because it is an emotional purchase. More than anybody that when you take a consumer into a house and that client starts looking through the house, they're already thinking, man, my bed can go here, my TV can go here. And that type of emotional moving in, it's like we want them to be equipped and prepared to go through and not be let down, right? The
Yeah.
only letdown that they'll have is, one, hey, the seller doesn't accept your offer, or two, hey, the inspection didn't come back right, or three, hey, we have an issue with the appraisal. Everything else needs to just kind of clip through 100% without any hiccups whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
That's why our job up front here at Neo is to fully approve the client up front, take them through that finance review with the agent. You've been on those several times where we're
Mhm.
showing them the numbers, we're peeling it back so that way when they're walking through the house, there's no more guesswork on the finance side. It's, hey, Deborah, we love the house. We know the numbers work. Brian already showed them to us. You were there. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and put an offer on this. And that's the magic behind that.
Absolutely. It's just giving our clients the confidence to move forward with the
Hmm.
decision that they want to move forward with. We're not here to push someone into something that they're not comfortable with. We're just here to provide information and to give them the confidence into whatever decision they want to make for themselves and for their family. So I think, yeah, just having information and being informed about what you're doing is the best way to go about it.
One piece of information I do want to mention too is when it comes down to major assets in a household balance sheet. So think about like, you know, your personal financial account, my personal financial account, the data is always, a year ago. It's never like, oh, well, last month. It's always historical data, right? Census data, all that stuff that we see. But
Mhm.
in 2022, what is it? 26% of anybody's wealth is actually built in their primary residence.
Yeah.
The next percentage is 19%, and those are other financial assets. So
Mhm.
other financial assets like, maybe you own a business, maybe you own commercial real estate, and then 23% is retirement accounts, 20% is business interests, right? So it's like you kind of look at all this and you just go, and other residential real estate like rentals like you and I have, or second
Mhm.
homes, that only makes up 6%. So if the largest percentage of the United States consumers' assets come from real estate, I don't know what else needs to share with you that, hey, it's not a bad investment.
Yeah.
It's never a
Yeah,
bad
really.
investment.
It's not like any other thing that you purchase, like a car, where it depreciates.
Hmm.
Real estate's always going to appreciate. You're always
For the
going to
most
get,
part.
for the
Yeah.
most part, right?
Anomalies happen, but yeah, you're
For the
right.
most part,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like whenever you're purchasing a house, and I think it's really good to like talk with your realtor, like, like what is this area doing? Like, is it appreciating or are we going down in value? Like, what's the
Yeah.
trend going on in that specific area? But yeah, just like being informed, getting the right information, partnering up with the right people, to really help you through the process. Cause it is a process. It's not like
Yeah.
a quick thing that you're going to do. And yeah, that's why I like you, Brian, so much. It's because when we bring in our clients, we really give them all the information. We break it down to where they can
Sure.
understand, because like you said, it is very daunting when you purchase a house. There's a lot of things that you're not aware of, especially if it's your first time going about it. There's a lot of new terms, like what is escrow, or what is putting an offer look like. So all those things can kind of be daunting, and can be nervous as a buyer. So I think, partnering up with the right team, getting the right information, and giving, providing confidence for the client to make the right decision for themselves is really just a rewarding experience to just go with them through.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you for that as well. I mean, and when you look at just the primary residence being, 26% of what everyone's portfolio is made of, right?
Hmm.
When you kind of look at it, right? At the end of the day, when you start looking at, well, what does this house do for me when I reach retirement age, right?
Yeah.
They did another survey, and I say I should tell you guys, it's actually through the National Builder Association. So it's actually the National Association of Home Builders. So their economic data that came back actually shows that anybody who's 65 or older, the number one, I'm sorry, the top two
Hmm.
is other financial assets like stock accounts, brokerage accounts, right? Those types of assets, cryptocurrency, everything falls in other financial assets. That's number one. Number two is primary residence.
Yeah.
So even in your later retirement years, you can almost expect your home to also be an asset that's going to be calculated in everything you do when you get older, right? Filing for Social Security, disability, retirement, what draws look like at the end of the year. Can you do a reverse mortgage, which that's probably for another topic, but reverse mortgages are not a bad thing. So I just want to say that real quick. So reverse mortgages can be very, very beneficial to people in later years. So a ton of information and data there, but just excited to kind of share that and what can be brought to the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Brian. How do people get in contact with you if they're interested in,
Yeah.
getting more information, or just, getting analysis of what their finances are, to see, when or how can they get ready and prepared to purchase a home this year?
First place to start, go to mortgagewealthpro.com. and you can actually find my website there. Once you go into Mortgage Wealth Pro, there's a link in there to just jump on my calendar for 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever works for you. If you're ready to go through the process, we could take you through that as well. The most important thing I want to leave you with too, and Deborah, I know you'll echo this. If it's a no right now, we're going to show you how to make it a yes.
Yeah.
So if you run into a challenge where you're saying, man, my credit isn't where it needs to be, but all the other indicators work, let us put a plan together. Let us tell you, hey, this is your purchase price target that you can get to with your income. This is what you can get to with down payment. These are the programs that are available to you. We just have to work on your credit, or we just have to work on income, or we have to work on debt, whatever it may be, right? Let us help you at least put that plan together. But mortgagewealthpro.com, Deborah. And then if you want to reach out to me, you have my number there as well, 210-683-1347. That's it.
Absolutely. So guys, if y'all are interested in teaming with myself and Brian, you can DM me you can text me at 210-712-2920. But yeah, we have an awesome team. And even if you're not ready specifically right now, we help you, through the process. So like if you need like a year to get prepared, 6 months, whatever the situation is, we're here to help you, to provide you with information and tactics on how to get yourself prepared. So if you're ready, DM us, contact us. You got our information. So I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. Today's the last day of February, so here comes March coming in. But I hope everyone has an awesome day. Bye, everyone.